John Stockton was the definition of point guard during his time. He is mainly known as Malone's sidekick, but Stockton was way more than that. He can even be considered as the top point guard the league has ever seen. He was a good player on both sides of the court, which is unique, and definitely has the stats to prove it. So of course in today's video, we're going to be talking about the underrated career of John Stockton. A player whose career is just extremely underrated and never really even talked about. In this video, my plan is to show you the incredible feats and achievements that Stockton was able to accomplish in his career. If you learned something new, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. But with all that said, let's get right into the video.
Yo, Pierre, you wanna turn me all the way up? I'm in this motherfucker. Take the auto-tune off. I don't need auto-tune. Fuck that auto-tune shit, man.
When people discuss the best point guards of all time, John Stockton will definitely come up, but there are other players just mentioned before him. Players such as Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, even Magic Johnson, and even Chris Paul. Stockton, however, was just known as being a great passer and a playmaker. That he was good at, and he excelled at that, and he's probably the greatest passer of all time, but he had other parts of his game that just had gone under the radar. But to start off with, his passing to start with is just the greatest the league has ever seen. Stockton actually owns the record for most assists all time, and it's not even close. If we take a look at the all-time rankings, we see Stockton topping the list with 15,806 assists. But the next player who is second on the list is Jason Kidd with 12,091. So John Stockton literally has 3,000 more assists than the rest of the NBA's history pretty much. So he has 3,000 more assists than Jason Kidd, who's number 2. That's just crazy. His ability to pass the ball was just something he did game in and game out. Something the league has just never seen pretty much, other than Magic Johnson of course. But for his career, he averaged 10.5 assists per game. He also had 10 straight seasons of averaging 10 or more assists per game, along with 2 seasons of averaging 14 plus assists and 3 seasons averaging 13 plus assists. Stockton also was a 9-time assist leader during his career, no surprise though. John Stockton was the definition of point guard during the late 80s and 90s. And one thing people say about John Stockton leading in the all-time assists is that he played with Karl Malone, who was one of the greatest scorers of all time in NBA history. I mean, he is second on the all-time scoring list with 36,928 points for his career, which is crazy. But the duo of Stockton and Malone in Utah formed the greatest pick-and-roll duo in the league, which is pretty much unstoppable. So this would lead to Karl Malone getting the opportunities. Maybe, I'm not saying Karl Malone probably wouldn't do it without John Stockton, but if you think about it, if Karl Malone didn't have the playmaking, great of a NBA, Hall of Fame playmaker in John Stockton, I'm not gonna say he wouldn't be that high in the scoring list, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. So they formed the best pick and roll duo in the league, and maybe one of the best of all time. And the argument that Stockton got all his assists from Malone is pretty much invalid due to them being unstoppable and Stockton setting up Malone with the pick and roll over and over during games. But this record of assists is likely to never be touched. But if we look at the active players who might, well, they're not going to have a chance, but who might have a chance, we look at players like Chris Paul and maybe LeBron, who are both down by more than 6,000 assists. So this record is pretty much untouchable, and I doubt anyone will come close to this, but still wouldn't be able to do it in the amount of games of Stockton. Stockton passed the all-time leader during his time, who was Magic Johnson. He passed him in 14 less games. Now that's just crazy. I think Magic Johnson played in 974. Stockton beat it in 960. Now that's just crazy. Now, even if anybody was to pass it, they're not going to do it in as many games as Stockton, because if you think about it, we haven't really seen another point guard, like a playmaker, as good as him in a long time. If you think about it, we had Jason Kidd, we had Steve Nash, you could say Chris Paul, but we haven't seen a predominantly playmaking point guard such as Stockton in a long time. But that's just one of the reasons why Stockton is, underrated. His career is underrated. There's other parts of his game that are just underrated. So let's just go to his defense, which is really underrated. So Stockton during his career was an underrated defender, maybe second best at his position during his time. We had the glove in the league at the time. I'm pretty sure everybody knows Gary Payton was one of the he's a Hall of Famer defender. That's pretty much why Stockton mainly got 5 all defensive second teams instead of first teams, because you had a player like Gary Payton in the league who was just lockdown defender. So Stockton, like I said, in his career he made 5 all defensive second teams, and he was a 2-time steals leader. And for his career, he also averaged 2.2 steals per game, along with a defensive rating of 104 for his career. But you probably didn't know that Stockton was the all-time leader in steals also. He leads with 3,265 for his career. And the next player is once again Jason Kidd with 2,684. So he's leading by a good amount there. And Jason Kidd is no longer in the league, so he's not going to catch up to his record here. And Stockton was one of the best two-way players of his era. And once again, he leads the all-time list by a huge amount. Some active players who are closest are once again Chris Paul with 2,062 and LeBron with 1,909. I doubt both of them will break the record, but they could come close. They can get higher on the list. I don't know if either of them would pass Jason Kidd, and maybe not Chris Paul out of any of them. But they are both down by more than 1,000 steals respectively. But that just shows you what Stockton was able to accomplish during his career. Like one of the many things. He was an underrated defender, but players from his time were aware of his defensive ability. Stockton also had mental toughness to help him throughout his career. Like for example, playing with players such as Gary Payton, like for example, Hall of Famer Gary Payton, who was the best defender in the league during his time, and also one of the greatest trash talkers of all time. He's seen this he's seen his defensive ability. He's seen how great Stockton was, and he said this when he was asked about his experience when trying to trash talk John Stockton during the game. He said, "Never. That is the reason why I respected him. You can never get in his head. He's the hardest person I ever had to guard. I tried to talk to him. I tried to do something, and he just looked at me. He said a hard pick, and it would cause me to get mad and get a tech." Coming from Hall of Fame defensive specialist Gary Payton, that John Stockton was also harder to guard than someone like Michael Jordan is something that just gets overlooked. John Stockton was also he was a great defender, and it's also led to Utah getting to the finals and all that. Like his career is also underrated because he wasn't able to beat anybody in the finals. Like he never won a championship, he never won an MVP. He wasn't really the flashiest player in the league. He was just a really good player, but there was just other better players at the time, other better teams at the time. I just wanted to say this because this is pretty much why his career is underrated if you think about it. But the last thing I want to talk about in terms of John Stockton's part of his underrated career is his durability. Last thing, Stockton had he had one of the things that most players don't have is the ability to stay healthy and be able to help his team each and every game. During Stockton's career, he would play every game out of 16. He would play every game in 16 of his 19 seasons. All 82 games in 16 of his 19 seasons. That's just crazy. But overall, Stockton would miss 54 games and play a total of 1,504 games. That is an incredible stat, especially since he played during the 90s and in the late 80s, where the NBA was just more tougher and physical than it is now. For him to be able to pull this off, it just proves his value to his team as an even more reliable, more of a reliable player. He's just really underrated. John Stockton is just crazy underrated. I believe that he's a Hall of Famer and all that. He deserves it all the way. I believe he's top 2 point guard of all time. There's no way. He's a top 2, maybe even top 1, but he's not the first one. But he's just not as flashy as the other ones. Magic Johnson had the flashy passes and all that. And John Stockton also, he just created one of the best duos in NBA history. Yes, they weren't able to win a championship. He didn't win an MVP, but it's just he's just really underrated in all the other aspects of his game that he was able to do. But that is an incredible career of John Stockton, arguably the greatest passer of all time, with being a great perimeter defender and a very durable player during his time. He might be a Hall of Famer, but his career can sometimes be overlooked because of his lack of success in the finals, and him playing with Hall of Famer Karl Malone. That also can overshadow his career. But if you learned something new in this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more dope videos like this. Thanks for watching. My name is the Windy City Assassin, and I'm signing out. Peace.